While there's a lull, come ahead. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Scott Lamb, Coconut Road. I was curious if there's any projects in the pipeline upcoming about doing the internet access on the county.
Well, there are some discussions going on, Scott, regarding broadband. As you well know, broadband is one of the featured revenue opportunities, not a revenue, but funding options that the American Recovery Plan, Rescue Plan Act can put money toward, as well as water projects, both clean and sewer system. There are some discussions going on that involve a private-public partnership to bring some broadband to this area where the communities and the counties of several neighboring counties might potentially come together in a collaborative effort to bring broadband to us. There's a couple of key elements to that I've been waiting on some feedback of some feasibility studies to determine the initial installation aspect and cost of these things, to see how far we can go with what money we may have available to what I will refer to as ARPA. This recent legislation passed in the U.S. Congress about a month ago, maybe now. That was the infrastructure bill, and it's supposed to have some broadband money in it, as well as through the state carved out $320 million additionally for broadband that we have not received any guidance on how to access that money.
I know it's very short for broadband, but and it was a godsend to taking care of people, everything from fire to ambulance services, law enforcement, whatever was needed. And that's the sort of thing that I hope we can get since we have that new tower just 2.5 miles back toward Danville.
Let me say this real quick, Scott. Bringing broadband coverage 100% to Boyle County is always been something that I wanted to do. And ARPA helped initiate at least a seed to get that started. But $5 million or whatever is not even come close to being allowed to have direct fiber to the home connections throughout the county. And the geographical impedance that we have is the knob, which we have to come across to get from the south, to include Falkland and all that up and down that road to get over here. So there are some discussions going on, and it's almost a little bit premature right now to broadcast those out, but there are plans to go from Danville to Perryville, and then we come up from the south perhaps with some services there, and come across the knob utilizing the available utility pole systems that we have to go off of those, but that's all expensive, so we're still in the middle of some feasibility studies to determine how cost before we even put out an RFP, request for proposal, on that to do. I will say this, that Spectrum and AT&T are going to be doing whatever they do separate and additional to what I'm talking about. Okay? So that will happen irrespective of what else we try to do with some other funds. Does that help answer your question?
I was just curious what sort of discussions are out.
It's
It's
front
going
burner.
on. It's ongoing. I wished it was a little more meaty and beefy than it is right now, but we want to do it where it doesn't. We want to do it right the first time to get the margin of error and being able to not get across a certain area or do something to provide that coverage. There will be a combination. Hopefully, most all of it will be direct hardwire cable to the house, because if we start looking at wireless options, it's diluted by trees, coverage, times a year, and all that, and that's not really viable. The problems we've had is with the some of the maps on those programs from the federal government that says if you have coverage in this area, one person coverage, that area has coverage. It literally could be one home. So that's a foul on their mapping programs. So we really don't know until they just recently changed that in the last couple of months what the vulnerabilities are with coverage that area. Because they're going to say, well, Western Boyle County has coverage. We all know that's not true. But we are deeply engaged in trying to promulgate the best possible broadband coverage for the county.
I was just curious if it was the hardwired or the wireless, because the terrain gives so much issues with the
It'll have to be almost, our discussions and thoughts right now are almost 100% hardwired. Almost 100%. Now, there are some variants to that hardwire, but it'll still be hardwire from the trunk lines. But, you know, we've even, just so you know, and they might say that sounds like crazy stuff, but, you know, the city of Danville was even talking about running some of the fiber through the water systems between Danville and Perryville and coming off each house with a trunk line off each one. That's been talked about too. And that's not as expensive as you may think it might be, which is a good thing.
Steve, you look like you got a question.
Jason?
Well, one of the other, since you brought up the ARPA funds, I serve at Eastern Park, but Tom and I'll tell you that we all make decisions for the whole county, and Jamie as well. And a majority of the ARPA funds will be coming to Western Boyle County through infrastructure improvements, pump stations here in Perryville. The Perryville, Parks and Water District, we're gonna be helping them out with some major overhauls that are very much needed. And then broadband are the three big items that are the three big projects that we're looking at to help. So, I will say, Tom does a good job fighting for this county.
Fighting for his district.
Yeah, every now and then I have to say, there's other parts of the county, Tom, that use some help, but there's some serious needs for, as you all know, about water, and hopefully, we'll be able to give some of those funds.
I could address some of that specifically at any point in time, if anybody's interested in that, numbers wise onto ARPA, but it's not broadband per se, but it is monies going that the fiscal court has approved at one first phase of that. If anybody's interested in the water part of it, is the first phase that the fiscal court's approved is to take some of our, over a 2-year period, our 5.829 million and funnel it to a part of that 1.245 to the Parksville Water District to bury and in concrete their cross creek water pipes. There's, I think, between 8 and 12 of those, around 10, that need to be down because they are creating an obstruction in these creeks that where they are. So we're gonna, with this money, they'll be encased in concrete below the creek bed. So no matter what the erosion is going forward, it should have minimal impact on that in the future. Additionally, some of that money going to Parksville Water District will help them to rejuvenate their 3 standpipe water towers to take apart, put in a temporary tank, rehab those tanks both with glass liners and new bolts and systems like that that haven't been done for 22 years. So we're in the process of talking with our consultant on that, which is Compass, and our legal counsel out of Lexington. And as soon as we get those processes in place, they cross the T's and dots the I's on Treasury guidance, we're moving forward with the Parksville Water District funding, which is not complete to their need, but is substantial to help them out, so we can spread the money across the county with multiple needs.
And then, as Magistrate Cullen mentioned, the pumping stations, which are just back here on Chaplain River, will also be improved in this ARPA funding.
Well, we want to present to the fiscal court later a plan. Is this a good time to talk about as far as you guys are concerned? Does anybody have any objections to talk about this water?
No, I mean, I think that.
It's not a done deal yet, and I'm gonna explain that. But we have,
I'm fine with that. I think the committee is happy to move forward with those recommendations that you made.
okay, we've had what are called a couple of water summits with the city of Danville.
In case anybody doesn't understand it, because I didn't understand it until I became a magistrate, but the city owns the water system, and that's something that the mayor and I have actually been with the Attorney General's office in Frankfurt over. But your water system is owned by the city of Danville.
So it is a plan that to take some of these ARPA funds and work through an interlocal agreement with the city of Danville to appropriate or fund their rehabilitation on projects in Perryville. And one of them is the Donnie Leonard pump station out here off 68. It's got some age on it, significant age. It needs to be rehabilitated.
And one right
The
over
old City Hall pump station behind the old City Hall over here along the Chaplain. And the 3rd Street pump not too far from the mayor's former home over here on 3rd Street needs to be rehabbed. Those 3 projects to renovate those systems and bring them up to current standards would be approximately, including engineering, it would be approximately $1.6 million. Now, this will help immensely with the improved water service structure in Perryville. And I think it's important to know that we are still trying to work with the city of Danville, that if we do this, it's part of what we want to try and do. There's no guarantees, but is to get some kind of I don't know what the right term for it might be.
relief.
But some relief on the rate structures here to an X percentage point, so it reduces the rate because of this infrastructure rehabilitation going forward. So say your water rate is X right now, it would be X minus a certain percentage, 4, 5, 6%, something like that going forward in the future. That's what we're working toward right now. And
Well,
any reduction is better than an increase.
Yeah. While we're waiting for another question, I'd like to recognize both Brian Wolford and Chad Holderman. I'm sure you're aware that their crew that comes out from the detention center, and I'm chair of that committee, has done just wonderful things with some of the historical structures here in town. And that's to these guys' credit over here to my right for them making sure to arrange for these folks. And that is a good opportunity for these young men who are incarcerated to begin to work their way back into the workforce. And of course, you probably know that James Hunn is over there mentoring them with programs that help them write resumes and prepare themselves for the fact that they will be back in society someday, and ideally as good tax-paying members. And these guys deserve a lot of credit for that.
Oh, by the way, the one thing I forgot to mention about the Perryville projects here to get to that 1.6 mil is the rehabilitation of the wastewater treatment facility out there near the convenience center. There are some things that will be done with some of the sand filters and some of the discharge going down into the Chaplin area, and will improve almost half of that money will go out to the wastewater treatment rehabilitation plant on the plant, which will go a long way into the future. Okay. Come on, I know if we don't have any questions, we must really be doing an excellent job down here.
One of the things that I've noticed this year more than the previous 2 years that I've been a magistrate, we have a lot of dead tree fall going on right now, and thank you, because folks have been calling me, Steve, and others in this room have called me to get trees removed, because you do not want a tree limb the size of my body to fall on your car or truck when you're going down some of these roads. And if there are any in your area, Dwayne is here, and we just talked about another one that needs to be taken care of over off Quarry Road. And if there are others that you need taken care of, please let us know, because that's a very dangerous circumstance. And when the winds that come up, and if you've got dead trees, the limbs will come down. Neal Road has 8 or 9 trees that need to come down pretty soon. One of them has widowmakers hanging right over the top of that narrow road.
Okay.
Don't have any bridge questions?
Hallelujah.
About the pedestrian bridge or anything?
I'll try to get you one of those big. It's from my understanding, everything I've seen on it's going to match the other black wrought iron that's on the existing driving bridge.
And speaking of all that construction, this flashing light has caused a lot of consternation, especially with school bus traffic that we get through here. Has that now been turned to red? Yeah, good. Okay. Because I was down through here just several days ago, and it was still an issue. And we constantly talk to Kelly Baker from District 7 over in E-Town. He's the guy in charge of the projects that we have here in all through Boyle County. They've been very cooperative on that sort of thing. And then Donnie Leonard has often expressed grave concern about the curve just past his farm. Actually, it's fronts there in his farm, where the guardrails are and where the speed limit is 45. He paid $1,100 for a mirror that was wiped off of his truck, and I've come within a frog hair of having mine wiped off there, because people come through there at 55 and 60 miles an hour, even in the curves, and we've about got that resolved now. So any of those kinds of issues, please call me.
I know that they may not be finished completely with the bridge yet, but nothing's been problem already. But they may be gonna put the white line further down, and maybe get thermal, whatever they do across the road with strips. But I've seen several trucks that have to back up already, and all the other.
They don't have mine yet. Stop line, they don't have stop.
Which one are you talking about, Tim? On the Buell Street stop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to call Kelly just the other day because the flashing light coming out of Lebanon was still having the wrong information on it. And I hope that's been resolved. I haven't been back out that way for about 3 or 4 days, coming back from Thanksgiving. But has anybody been to Lebanon? It was or was not?
Was not.
Okay, I'll call again.
You know,
That's right.
yeah, the one thing that the mayor and Master Ellis and I think you noticed it by now, but coming from Lebanon at 68, there's a bub out there, so to speak. And, I guess that was kind of my idea, because the truck would pull up that light and then just cheat over to the left and then make that right turn on the bridge, and it was still real tight. Well, we had to move that utility pole, and they got moved, and so it's about 11-foot swing out there that's gonna help that traffic going east on 150 hugely. But it also helps going to the west, coming from Lebanon, because it almost shoots you right out where they go right up the hill really easy. But I think that, in addition, was it 13, 14 feet wider on the bridge itself from
About 13 and a half, by the time you take the side.
That is a great looking bridge. I mean, really, truly, once that pedestrian bridge gets up there, and it's gonna look, you look down to the river to the south, it's gonna be great. And it's gonna be, what, 8 foot wide?
8 foot wide.
So,
One of the issues with the line markings on the new bridge, a couple of people talked to me about it down here. The stop, if you're westbound,
yeah,
the stop at the light, the painted stop, they've got it too close.
well, it's been too close before, and they moved it back, and then moved it back up again.
I think it needs to be moved back to give that trucker coming off 68.
Plenty of turn radius to come in there.
Yeah, but it was originally supposed to be, in the planning process, it was gonna be moved east 25 feet. And they did, right, and we're still talking to them about that. It's a little too close.
We'll hopefully get it taken care of before it's dedicated, and everything.
With Steve Hunter here from Planning and Zoning, if you have any issues coming up, if there's any development that you are in favor of or perhaps not in favor of, Steve and I talk probably once a week. And anything that you need with that, either get in touch with me and I'll communicate to Steve, or we can get directly with him, because we're wanting development out here.
Well, tell me about your services. Anybody got any comments? Because we got Geneva Hogue here from our Environmental Services Division. Is there any issues with the convenience center here? Any at all?
We changed that schedule, and I came and made comment before we implemented it. The hours and the days are different. I've not had any complaints on that, because we were a little bit concerned that lopping a day off might be a concern, but that helped us after holidays. And as I say, there's been no concern expressed to me. Are any city council members hearing anything on? Good.
It helped me. I like it better because I couldn't figure out what day of the week it was open or closed. Inevitably, I'd come down on the wrong day. It did.
Good. Anytime you change, you got to anticipate what the questions might be.
What is the current schedule?
Tuesday
Yeah,
through Saturday, 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
We were concerned that some folks, leaving for work or something early on, might miss that because they can't get there at 7 or 8 in the morning like they did. And by the way, Joe Singleton is fantastic. He is always at least a half an hour early. Don't go because you think he'll be early, but he's been a stalwart in making sure that things are done very well there.
A couple of online questions here. Chief Hatter, can we have him come out? Carlos, Chief in there. Still, Chief Young brought me a couple of online questions from viewers. Still want to know about the speeders on Hardy Street. I know you guys have done some extra patrols over there since the last month.
We're in the process of
Why don't you come to the mic so they can hear your answer, if you don't mind, Parker?
We're good. It's a daily grind as far as the traffic goes. We've actually got a new radar that we've installed into our other cruisers, so all 3 vehicles will be equipped. So, I mean, we are actively trying to. That should probably be put in probably next week. So all 3 vehicles will then be fit with that, so we can actually, you know, it's one thing to say, yeah, they're speeding, but if we don't have them on a radar, there's really
Right.
nothing we can do about that.
Right.
So, but we're working on it.
Your guys did a good job when the bridge was 1 lane. Thank you for that.
Sir, I appreciate
That
it.
was tough duty for y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, great,
Thanks.
thank you. Dwayne, this next one might be one that you can give me some input on. I know it's in the city, South Buell Street.
We've actually talked to them too in the past month or so. I don't know, Dwayne, what they've said to you. I know
Which
Buell
is
Street,
state road.
68,
It's state road, yeah.
basically out to from the stoplight
Out to the curve?
out to kind of Poodle Reynolds' house, out in that area, back basically where the newer road came in there. It was really rough, and I spoke with the state, and I think of earlier in the year that road was actually number 57 on the list, but the last I had heard, which was probably 3 weeks ago, that it had been bumped up to like number 6. Have you heard anything on it other than that?
I have not. I mean, of course, we'll be meeting with the state again in probably February, March, and they'll update their paving list for this next year.
Right.
And we can ask them at that point in time.
Absolutely.
And it is actually, whoever had that online question there, that's a really good one, because that is one of the roughest roads. That is a state road, but one of the roughest roads in the
Is
county.
that about a mile out to Poodle's house, roughly?
Not even.
Not even, is
Less,
it?
yeah.
No.
Of course, I mean, there may be a little bit more involved with it since it's federal highway. They'll have to get some extra approvals that
Right.
they would normally get, but I don't think that's an issue, but we need to be sure we bring it up to them
Yeah.
in March and see if it's on their list. If not, maybe
So is
they
that
can-
virtually from where, downtown, at the light out?
At the light to the
Okay.
basically where
Where it
when
widens.
Where the new
when the
construction
restructuring of that road
Yeah.
came through, it's pretty good from there on heading west, but
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
basically
Dwayne-
the curve
Yeah.
or right past.
Dwayne, I
Right,
noticed the
Davis.
state was working on the bridge today on the way in town toward Danville on 150. Are the asphalt companies still open because we're having this warm weather?
Yes.
Good,
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
they're hoping to finish up next week and close up.
good.
And of course, the weather doesn't look real good next week, so I don't know what's gonna happen with all that, but that's what their plan is right now.
Yeah.
Because they have 2 or 3 of our county roads they're gonna resurface.
That's good.
Do one tomorrow and hoping to do a couple more next week and finish up with us.
Great.
The striping, I might address that real quickly. The striping out here, as I understand, is temporary. There's still more work to be done there. And the company that did the striping, which is our local company, Central Seal, they striped it according to the records that are still on the books with the state, which, you know, more or less straight center line. And those will all have to be updated. You know, I did ask that question because I was gonna ask the state about it, but once I found out from the contractor that it was just temporary, I didn't bug anybody about it. But
Yeah.
y'all might kinda just try to stay on top of it too. because
Yeah, I think the
you are
only
supposed to have
the
that-
only one
You're all
that
supposed to have that bulb out or flare for traffic coming
Right.
from Lebanon on 68. That's gonna push the trucks further west and give them a much bigger swing radius on the bridge. And the way they modeled it, that's supposed to give the trucks enough room to be able to swing on there. It shouldn't matter where the stop bar is here on the bridge.
right.
Shouldn't.
Right, but I think they initially had said that they would try to move it back like another 20 to 25 feet.
And that would be helpful too, but yeah. But
I mean, I do
just know that
remember
what's-
them.
Just know that I was told that what's there now is temporary, so.
Yeah, and I know that what they initially told me was, I mean, there is a legal limit to how far they can come from the stoplight.
Yeah.
So they can't exceed that limit.
Bring back up to South Buell paving. We wanna make sure how far it got bumped up. And not only paving,
Millie. Yeah.
that street has got to be.
It needs to be milled too before they pave it.
It really
That
needs.
street hasn't been milled, it's probably been 12 to 15 inches of blacktop added to that street over the years.
And it is creating a lot of flooding issues or
Yeah.
drainage issues over there.
Gotta be milled back.
Will they try to raise it in town here in front of Merchants Row? Will they try to, will it?
Needs to be milled. Right now, the crest of South Buell, you got those curbs that the state put in, I think the state put those in front of Merchants Road.
Yes,
Water.
the temporary
Now
curve.
the crown of the Buell Street is above
Higher.
the curb.
Yeah, when they did they came out and did they kind of surveyed that. How long has that been, Vicky? Probably 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, 11 years ago. They basically said that the highway in front of the Merchants Row buildings was about 16 inches higher than it.
Oh,
than it
good
should
Oh,
be.
my
gracious.
gosh.
See, they just keep paving, no milling, just paving.
You capturing some of this, Dwayne, about as far as milling and everything?
A good example is the curbs right in front of Merchants Road on the house side, not on the Merchants Road side, where the shops are. Those limestone curbs there should be 12 to 15 inches tall, and they are very, there's about 3 inches exposed in it, all the rest of it is paved over.
Woody, tell us what's going on.
Listen, I did see something that scared me about the new bridge, and I talked to Dwayne about it. A semi that came that way, and one from Leonard, and he swung it wide, and the semi backed up, and the car sat on its horn, and finally backed up to let it come on through. And I was just praying he wouldn't back over the car, because I don't think he knew the car was back.
You mean he pulled out and you found out he couldn't go all the way and make the turning, he had to back up on 68?
One was coming off the bridge and while the other one set.
Oh,
Like I was saying.
Yeah, too tight.
One came up too far
Yeah.
on 68.
And he sat on that horn, and that car backed up and gave the trucker what he needed to make the swing.
Yeah, you can't see if you're 50 feet behind a semi. He can't see you.
Well, just thank God nothing happened.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna back over that car, I really did. But he backed up and gave the trucker what he wanted, and everything went hunky-dory. It's always been an issue since I've been here. People northbound off 68, they don't, and I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people, they don't stop where the painted stop mark is. They pull up to turn right on.
On red.
That's true.
One way to eliminate that, no right turn on. Yeah, like they do in Danny.
Dwayne, make sure and get that one down. Yeah.
You realize I live on South Buell, right?
you do realize where he lives, right?
And I also realize that you can go up the city.
Come down 4th Street.
Barbara, you got anything for us tonight?
I don't think so. I've got an issue, but I'll deal with it later.
Okay.
I'm sure you're glad the trucks are moving because I see you're getting some nice inventory in.
Great, yeah, I get a lot of big trucks at my store, and,
We appreciate you.
yeah, I'm glad the bridge is open for them.
Yeah.
Because they leave here and go to Springfield, off of Louisville.
We did have an issue with the Dollar General store delivery truck. They were literally coming like this across the county on the tiny roads. And I can't imagine why, except that they have the one over in Parksville now. And we got that corrected because both that manager and the one over at Parksville were very cooperative when we went to them and talked to them about we needed to eliminate that cross-country travel. And it's better for the truckers too.
I will mention something that has been brought to my attention. It's not in Perryville, but on the Parksville Cross Pike, there's been several 18-wheelers go across from Lebanon Road to Perryville Road, and some of them have driven off the road. Some of them go through the Cross Pike, 18-wheelers doing 55 mile an hour in certain places. That's a scary proposition at best. I talked with Joe Tammy, and I've been watching it and monitoring it and as well as he has. But I went to the industrial council and talked to them about the issue, and they've addressed that as best they can. But what I wanted to propose to do, and they really said it wouldn't make much difference. And they explained to me why, but what I wanted to do was show them by maps, and we've even done some signs in the industrial park. Don't turn off of Lebanon Road. Don't turn to the west. Don't turn right. No 18-wheeler trucks past the point right there by Wilderness Trail. And that helps some, but they still go that way because the GPS is taking the trucks that way and cutting across, and they even, have gone down Irving Road and across and coming out Caldwell. There again, that's not an 18-wheel route. So I wanted to put a map up and say, please turn to the right coming out of these industrial, or turn to the east coming out of the industrial parks. And they've already done that twice before at each of the factories on Lebanon Road. What causes a real problem with trying to reduce the 18-wheel traffic in these areas is, believe it or not, and this is not meant to be anything but just a factual statement, a lot of the 18-wheel drivers out there right now, believe it or not, don't read English.
That's true.
So they can see a map, but they don't, when they come in, they get a truck loaded and they're leaving or unloaded or whatever, and they leave, they don't pay much attention to that. You could stick it in their truck cabs on their seat, and they're just going to discard it off the side. I don't know what to do, but I've talked to the sheriff and others about, patrolling that area, because there's been trucks that have caused accidents and run off the road going across there. And we're still trying to work the issue. I get photographs from Joe every once in a while about a big white 18-wheeler off the road or going through Parksville Crosspike doing 50 mile an hour, 55 mile an hour. And it's dangerous. So something we tried to address. And I'm talking to the plant managers and stuff and all these LSC and others about how we can help correct that issue. But it seems to be real difficult or complex one to correct. We're trying.
We know a little bit what you're talking about with the English. During the bridge construction, Mayor Boyle, myself, Parker, Nick, we dealt with some drivers not only could read English, could not read English on the sign. They couldn't speak it easy.
I was amazed at one that came through and tried to turn, and we made him back up and get out of the way. He spoke Russian. I was stunned that this guy spoke Russian.
We even had one to back up. He kind of got hung up, so we got him backed up, and we thought he was going to turn left and go west, and he just tried it again.
Director Mike Rogers came in a while ago, and he's our EMS, Emergency Medical Services Director, and he and his team out there doing a great job. And if anybody has anything that where we could improve on our service, we'd love to hear it. We try to minimize our response time as short. What is it to Perryville from your dispatch? 5 minutes, 6 minutes?
Yeah, it's pretty quick. For some of you that don't know,
Come on up to the mic, if you don't mind, Mike.
one of the things we did in this last fiscal year is we switched from a 24-hour shift to a 12-hour shift. What that did for us is it makes where the crews are only working 12 hours, they don't have to rest, so they can be in the trucks, and it really reduces that response time. What we've been doing is strategically stationing the trucks based on run volumes. So we look at a geospatial demand map and heat maps and see where the runs are and try to keep people during the peak times, where they can minimize that response. Over the last 6 months, anecdotally, we've had a lot more runs to Perryville and in the area, in the county. So So a lot of times we'll have a truck on Main Street, and then we'll sometimes have a truck there in the McDonald's area there on Perryville Road, so they can get in and out. So 12-hour shifts is it was a really strategic move because we're able to move people, as the run volumes change. So and as Danville and Boyle County continue to grow, we can continue to be flexible about station ambulances where their utilization is best. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
And while Mike's up there, I want to thank you, Mike, because when the bridge was under construction, Mike made sure to have coverage on the west side. That was his creative thought to do, and that was much appreciated. I'm sure you had some runs out of that too.
Yeah, and we have good community partners with Chief Young. I can't thank them enough. They're always with us all the time. Can't praise them enough. We couldn't do what we do without them, with law enforcement partners throughout the county. One thing that we need to do better as a county is something I talk about a lot is sudden cardiac arrest and heart attacks are two different things. A heart attack is when your heart is starving for oxygen. Sudden cardiac arrest is when your heart stops. Okay. So what we need citizens of Boyle County to do is to do CPR before we get there. And we teach hands-only CPR all the time. You can Google hands-only CPR. You'll see people like Will Ferrell and big name stars that'll show you how to do it. You can learn it in 30 seconds. I can teach a whole church in about 2 minutes how to do it. It's really easy to do, but basically the long and short of it is if someone's unconscious, you can't wake them up, you shake them, call 911, get that dispatcher on the phone, put them on speakerphone, and then just start doing chest compressions. I would rather you do chest compression on someone that didn't need it than someone that needed it and didn't get it. So I understand sometimes when it's your family, it's hard, you don't think clearly, but that's what that dispatcher is for. Call 911, get them on the phone. If you do CPR before we get there, you can double or triple the patient's chances of survival. And all too often we see people don't do it. I don't know what the reasoning is. It's just they just don't do it. So,
Mike, you might touch on Good Samaritan Law.
Yeah, you're protected in the Commonwealth of Kentucky by
as long
Good
as you're
Samaritan.
not trained medically, a nurse or an EMS provider, if you in good faith try to help someone, you're covered. They can't sue you or do anything like that. So we really need to push to where getting a dispatcher on the phone, getting them to tell you information, and then do CPR before we get there. The other thing is there's a lot of times we work with our community partner with the hospital, and it's kind of surprising, but a lot of people that's having heart attacks drive themselves to the hospital. And don't do that. We have an EMS unit that has everything the hospital has besides labs. We have EMS providers that have medications. We can do things. We can take we can do a 12 lead, and if you're having a heart attack, we can let the hospital know, and the cardiologist will be waiting for you when you come in the door. So those are important steps that really will help outcomes as far as for patients to do better. So we have really good success with heart attacks and getting people's heart reperfused, and it's just amazing. We have success stories all the time where somebody will have a heart attack, they're home the next day, and it really is amazing. So happy to answer any questions. And feel free anytime if you have questions or concerns, you can call EMS headquarters, and I'll be happy to talk to you or help in any way I can. So thanks for letting me talk to you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Mike, one of the biggest competitors that we have, we've got such a well-trained EMS staff, and Mike does such a great job with this, that one of our biggest competitors is actually the hospital.
Yeah.
That's who we usually try coming after our staff at EMS, the most at the hospital, because they're so well-trained. They're probably one of the best people to have in an ER situation.
Yeah.
That some of the doctors will say that they would like to have a paramedic or one of our EMS people there. And that just should give you a good amount of confidence. Call 911, get one of our EMS buggies out to where you need to be, because the job that Director Rogers has done has been amazing.
Truly amazing. One of the best in the state.
It's a tough issue to talk about, but the judge made sure that probably almost 2 years ago, the court went through Narcon training. Mike, you might want to touch on that a little bit too.
Yeah, And we actually have a community outreach person. And what our goal is at EMS is we see there's a gap. The opioid crisis is big. Everybody knows what that is, right? So the way to fix an overdose with opioids is with Narcan. Everybody knows what that is. If anybody's interested in having Narcan at their house, you got to keep it out of the elements, so you can't put it in your car, things like that. We could get that for you, and even if you don't, there's nobody at risk at your house. You know, a lot of times people when they use, they're mobile in cars, and they know that they may stop breathing, so they try to do it in a public place to where somebody will find them. So you know, it's good to have it. We can train you on how to use it, and you can have it in case you need it. But one of our other goals is when people that are addiction, you know, have the heroin addiction, we want to get them into treatment. So we try, when they have an overdose, we follow up with them within 72 hours and try to get them into some kind of treatment. So if you know someone that's dealing with some kind of mental health issue or some sort of addiction issue, reach out to us. We can help. We have resources. We can get you in contact with people that know, and we'll help these people get the treatment that they need. So.
That's, in short, that's, he's referring to the quick response team that will go out and outreach.
Yeah.
And if there's an incident that involves Narcan, then they try to follow up on that and get them the assisted need and helping that they need. But what I would like to do, if we haven't already done it, and I don't think we have, but I'd like to reach out to Perryville Fire and Perryville Police.
City Council.
The City Council to equip them with Narcan and give them access to that.
Sure, we can do that.
Amy Ennis did our training for the
Yes,
staff
yeah, she's very good.
Yeah.
She's very good with the training piece. Yes, Chad.
Chad?
Come on up so I can hear you.
Amy that she's talking about, she is actually employed by the University of Kentucky through a Healing Initiative grant that the jail that we're working with right now on this as well as some other stuff. She's at our facility twice a week, all day, and her job is to sit in our front lobby and she educates and trains people and will give you Narcan to take home with you. So if you're interested in it.
Two applications of it.
Two applications. Give me a call. I know just a few months ago, Director Rogers here had a conversation with me and said, hey, I don't know what you all are doing, but it's working. Where they were pushing Narcan several times a day, yeah, they have actually now, you said, once a week. Usually when they get on scene, whoever is the victim there has actually already had Narcan delivered. And a lot of it's the department also, Narcan program, but a lot of it is definitely coming out of the jail. So we catch everybody, inmates, visitors. Amy will find you and get you hooked up and trained. So
She is a bundle of energy, isn't
she is. So if you all are interested in
She's
getting
great,
that, just contact myself or Jailer Wolford, and we'll make certain that she's looking for you and we'll get you fixed up.
And while we're on healthcare issues, I would not propose anything close to a mandate on the Moderna or the others, J&J. But if you're so inclined, and at my age, I was very much inclined, as was my wife. We've gone through the first series with Moderna and now the booster, because now we're threatened with a new one coming out of South Africa. So our health department can work with you very cooperatively, or you can go to Walmart like I did for my booster. So,
Jailer Wolford, do you have anything you'd like to add or say?
No, if
Yeah.
anybody needs to just contact the jail.
Anybody needs to go to jail?
yeah, Missy.
that we need to remember too that the Boyle County Health Department judge is also doing the needle exchange
Yes.
out there, so we need to remember that that's a service.
What was the number that Merle said we did last year? Was it 60,000 plus needles exchanged in Boyle County alone?
Yes.
That's staggering. That's mind blowing.
And you all can also call the judge's office and we can get you Amy's number if you can't,
Yes.
Chad or Ron.
Okay.
Judge, this might be a minor question, but under Good Samaritan Law, if just a general public person administers Narcan,
Yes, sir.
are they covered under the?
Yes, sir.
Samaritan?
They are. Yes, they are.
The good thing about Narcan too is that there's no adverse side effects.
It cannot yeah, there's no adverse.
And they don't need it,
It's not gonna hurt them.
I was just wondering if you gave it, they didn't survive.
and what we teach when we tell people how to use it is, no matter, I wanna make sure that make sure you call 911, because they may not wake up completely, but it's gonna help them pretty quickly to start breathing on their own, but we may need to administer more when we get there after we do our assessment. So make sure, you know, if you get Narcan, to make sure you still call 911, because, you know, there are some certain times that sometimes it's not quite adequate. So,
When Amy was here a couple of weeks ago, I dropped in to talk to her because I had a lurking question on my mind. I carry the bee sting injector, self-injector, and I've got one that's expired, but I won't throw it away. And I asked her about Narcan, and she said it is better to administer one, and mine's over 2 years old now. It's better to administer it and not worry about, as Mike said, the fact that there won't be any side effects than to not administer it to save a life.
You might want to also remember that when they are administered Narcan, when they wake up, there could be some strange.
They could be
Combative.
Combative to
because you just run one of their best highs they ever had, probably, even if they died. I know in the military, when we were there and we had injection pens of atropine, there was two self-injected needles in the thigh. As soon as you took them, you took it to the shirt flap of your uniform and bent the needle over so they know that you administered those when the medics came to the field to get you. So if you administer Narcan, if you do one or two dose, I guess just one dose, but you know, I guess leave it where, you know, 911, the first responders can know that it's been administered to. All right. You're a very inquisitive bunch tonight. No.
Well, I've got two things if we're getting close to close.
Tim, how about you? You got something else to say, surely. What would Woody been to your ear about?
Well, I'd certainly wish everybody a Merry...
Yeah,
yes,
Trilly.
Trilly, come out.
I can get up here. Trilly Bottom. Is there any discussions going on about the Perryville battlefield and any negotiations about it becoming a federal park?
Those discussions are always there, Judge. I haven't heard anything in the last 4 or 5 months.
Well, it was discussed with some congressional staff probably this past summer.
Yeah, we were right across the road at Salton.
We did meet with them, of course, before COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID. I guess it's been longer than that.
We'd met a couple times then, and then of course COVID happened.
I wish.
I've heard a lot since.
I haven't either. I really wish we could put a lot more money into it, and I don't know whether the right avenue is the state or the feds, the National Park Service. In talking with our congressional delegation, the approach to get a National Park Service designation, that process is 10 years long at minimum. And the intel I got back on Perryville specifically was NPS loves the historic aspect of it and the natural beauty of it, and it's got all these positive, great qualities and everything. But the one thing that was a real stumbling block for NPS was the electrical high tension wires going through the park. Right. And that was a nosedive. And I don't know how severe, but once they said, the NPS to our congressional delegation said, we'd be interested in it, but for the lines going through the park. And they don't know how to promote the natural beauty that is there on the ground with that going right through the park. So,
and there's a concept I'm not coining the phrase, but I would caution. I feel pretty good about home rule on something like that because we've got a good system with state parks, and with Brian Bush out there, he's just fantastic. He's an author of 17 or 18 books, folk, and does reenactments of all sorts of things from the Revolutionary War all the way up to the Civil War and beyond. So I would be concerned. I'd want to see all the paperwork, what we might lose in terms of any controls if we didn't have it. And one of the great aspects was the judge and I and others met, and the mayor met with Congressman Guthrie right across at Salted Honey, and I guess it was pre-COVID. But I've got a buddy who's a quadriplegic helicopter crash Vietnam era buddy, and I've had him over here to the park a couple of times. And the idea that we talked about that day was a walking trail wide enough for anyone who's disabled. We've not gotten anywhere in that. COVID slowed things down, but that's something that I'd really like to see from Perryville all the way through. And I guess it's through whose land is that right there?
Daryl Young's. Yeah,
Yeah, you were in that meeting.
Well, while they haven't come out as a national park, that has not stopped them from continuing to invest in the park and purchasing property when readily available. They've expanded the footprint of that park.
Right, over 1,000 acres now.
Yeah, so
The largest in the nation that's contiguous as that battlefield had been.
we may not have that designation, but we definitely have the intention of them and even more surprising the dollars.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing I'd like to see to enhance Perryville's attractability and tourism draw would be to improve the Battlefield Road going out to the park, where we'd improve the access and the safety to increase the traffic flow going out.
Right.
And I would like to work with District 7 on trying to help facilitate a safety improvement project to go out to the park entrance from 150.
Yeah, Harold?
My name's Harold Edwards, for those that don't know me. I'm a member of the Perryville Battlefield Commission. I don't know if people are aware of the fact, most of us do that are involved, obviously, but do you know where the money comes from and where they're buying this land? People say the state's, buying.
It's not the state.
The state's not buying this land. It's a private entity. It's called the American Battlefield Trust. And they are actually buying the land. The Friends of Perryville group clean the land up, remove any modern structures that aren't historic, and then they deed it to the state. And at that point, then the state takes over. And the reason they clean it up before it goes to the state, because it's much more efficient. Once it gets in the state's hands, you've got so many hoops to jump through that it makes it so complicated to get that done. So, you can thank the American Battlefield Trust and the Friends of Perryville.
Amen.
Have done a wonderful job at making the park what it is today.
Absolutely. Thanks
Hope
for that.
people know that, yeah.
Thank you, Harold.
Charlie, getting back to everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people think by going the National Park Service route, there'd be more access to maintenance money and operational money
It's not
for
there.
the park. It's not there. And I could probably give you 10 national parks, mostly Civil War oriented, where they have trouble getting toilet tissue in some of the park facilities. And there's a misnomer that by being a federal asset, a national asset, it's already a national asset, but being managed or operated by the federal government, National Park Service, that there'd be a lot more money access available to that for tourism and promotability. It just doesn't seem to be the case, because this past summer, you saw the fee structures go up in Yellowstone and other national parks out there, and tourism go down, probably because of COVID, but even prior COVID, it was starting to head that way. And hopefully, when we do come out completely out of COVID, I hope that there's a big boom back for people getting back out to nature in the National Park Service. But right now, the financial O&M money for their parks is not dramatically different than what the state is doing, which is not what it should be.
Thank you.
I hope that answered your question, but
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Scott?
Just two quick things on the park issue. One is, I got a daughter that's worked for the Everglades for 15 years, and I can back up what you're talking about the budget, because there's not funding on the national parks like you would think there would be.
That's why I call it home rule.
Yeah. And the second thing is, just a cautionary tale
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just concerned that, you know,
They would be even faster if it was a better road.
that's my point. I've been passed on Battlefield Road
Oh, my
4
gosh.
times. And you find me a spot where that
Oh.
makes sense, because there ain't one.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
So are you saying don't fix it? Don't make it better?
Well, I've always heard bad roads make
Safe driving.
neighbors, you know.
I hear you. I hear you. No, you're right. You're right. Mike, you got anything for us? All right.
Mike's got fossils on his ground that are found nowhere else in the world, right? That's an amazing story. We
He's
need
not
to get.
talking about you, is he? No.
Let me retract that. Let me rephrase, Judge. No, that's a very fascinating thing that you've got there, and we ought to get that written up. Again, I know you've had it in the past, but I was so pleased with what you sent me on that. Well, folks, I started to say a moment ago that if we're coming to a close, Merry Christmas to everybody, and I hope to see you tomorrow night at Kroger Field.
Yeah, football game, BC and Johnson Central. I plan to be there, and it won't be as cold as last Friday night. 27 degrees in the stands.
Yeah.
I too, if there are no other questions or statements anybody would like to make, I appreciate you being here tonight. I want to do this in every magisterial district, and we got Magistrate Gay and Magistrate Cullen here. We're going to do this throughout the county, and I want to make this statement. This is not meant, and I don't think you've heard anything here tonight that would indicate otherwise. It's not meant to be political. This is government to the people, and that's the sole purpose, period, end of paragraph. And so this is the opportunity, and as the more we do this, it will be an opportunity for people to reach out and really communicate back to us those things that need improvement or things that we are doing well. And that's the single purpose of the Pulse of the People. Mayor, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what he said. I thank all y'all for coming out tonight. It's been one of the things that I've always harped on. Past 14, 15 years I've been involved down here. We don't have enough participation when it comes to meetings. So it's good to see people come out and ask questions. Thank you all.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Perryville City Council and our mayor and our city, we thank Federal Court, Judge Mike, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a safe evening. Appreciate you being here.